Here's how to be good with Gambit so you don't sell all your rank games. Look how fast he can take out a 275 HP target. That being said, that's not even the best part of his kit. He actually has incredibly bursty heals as well. So using all these cooldowns to force and take a KO is not the best utilization of his kit, but I'll get to that in a moment. In this guide, we're going to talk about all of the abilities, which I'll skip for short form, and then talk about tips on how to actually utilize his kit in a setting that would be, applicable to ranked. And I'll end with some of his best combos. So let's get right into it. First things first, when you use his left click or his M1, you will see 3 cards separate that are projectile. The closer you are, the more damage they will do and healing they will do because all 3 cards will land. You can consistently land all 3 cards at about 25 meters for the most part. And again, they're very good for burst healing as well. On Gambit's left shift is his dash. It goes about 10 meters when you use the dash, and you should have 2 of those cooldowns. It's a great movement ability. It helps you reposition, but it gets better. On his right click, you do have the ground pound or the Bayou Bash. This ability does some damage, and it also does decent healing. Note, anytime you're using the Bayou Bash, you can actually self-heal with it as well. That's the only time I could see you using it as standard, when you're in a duel and you're trying to self-heal a little bit to keep it going. Outside of that, you want to combine the ability with your dash, because when you dash and then use the Bayou Bash, you do one of these. It extends the range of your dash, and it deals damage and heals and self-heals. It does everything at once. But this thing is dashing, when you do it properly, almost 20 full meters. It will also heal you 79 damage, which is a weird number, but that's just what it is, which is a little more than what you get from the standard ground pound. As you can see right below the crosshair, there are 4 cards. Those are indications of how many times you can use your deck abilities. You have 2 different decks. We're going to start with the Hearts deck, or his E button on PC. When you press E, you will see one of those cards immediately is used. Anytime you activate a deck, a card will immediately be used, and the cooldown will start regenerating it relatively quickly. But note that the only way to get those cards back is over time. There's no way to gain those cards back quicker. When you open up the Hearts deck, before you even commit an ability, you will start self-healing as long as you are holding a card. As soon as you commit an ability, it will stop the self-healing. So note that just holding the card will constantly heal you, which is valuable with the Hearts deck. When you press the E ability, you have 2 options, your flush or your raise. The flush ability is an ability where you will throw that card and it will then bounce between allies, giving them healing increase. This is incredibly useful because it stacks and applies healing buffs to everybody at the same time, making it so your left clicks do even more burst healing. Really good for team fights, really good for burst healing. Definitely makes Gambit viable in those dual strategist compositions. But the other ability on the Hearts deck is his Purify, which honestly is very good against like ultimates, because it's an AoE Purify that heals at the same time. But you really want to only use that when there's a big CC ultimate coming. You can kind of prep for that, because outside of that, having that burst bounce healing is just so valuable. But if you can cleanse a CC like a strange ultimate, or like any of those CCs like sleeps, etc., it is very, very strong. But he cannot remove marks, such as something like Spider-Man's mark, Tracer, or even Panther's mark. So keep that in mind. But outside of that, virtually everything else. Then we get into his Spades deck. You have 2 options there, raise and flush. Before you commit an ability with the Spades deck, when you open it, you get a damage boost. You can see there, much like you'd see with Mantis, you can see the up arrows around your body. You deal more damage, and that is really strong for 1v1 fights. When you use the flush, so you press F and then F again, you will launch a long-range projectile, although it's incredibly fast, ability that will apply healing reduction to whoever it hits in an AoE. So it actually will splash and hit multiple targets. This is by far, in my opinion, the best ability in the Spades deck. Having that healing reduction is very valuable, and it's very quick and easy to land. Outside of that, you have the raise ability, in which you actually can knock up in a format in front of you in 3 different locations, all the enemies in front. This ability is pretty good, and I see some combos utilizing it to try to like combine with damage, but in the end of the day, you actually deal a little more damage with the flush. So in my personal opinion, you more so want to use the flush over the raise, because although the raise gives a little knock-up, the anti-healing is just more valuable in my opinion. The downside to using abilities when you opened up either deck is that it's going to burn 2 cards, which is half of your entire charge. So if you overcommit abilities just a little bit, even if you're trying to make an aggressive play with the antis, and you find yourself having no cards and your team needs healing and you need group healing, you are going to be out of luck. You really got to be smart, in my personal opinion, is to save 2 of those cards, but we'll talk about that in a moment. I truthfully believe the most value with Gambit, if you're playing strategist, is to utilize that flush after using the healing deck, because keeping everybody with this overhealth increase in general, making sure they have that healing increase at all times, bouncing between your entire team, and they're constantly keeping that up with your cards is so valuable. At any point, you can look at allies, whether it's through walls, and it has to be in your LOS, your line of sight, but even through walls. If I turn backwards, notice I can't see anyone. I look back towards my allies, I see 2, 3. I mean, they just fell, so you can't see them. But once they respawn, you will see 3. What this alt does is it will cleanse any CC. It will give whoever is in trouble some HP. It will give them movement speed, jump boost, and it will make it so when they're fighting, they do single target tick damage to whoever they're fighting, helping you win any sort of team fight and turn the fight. It's essentially a Uno reverse card, if you will. Somebody like Groot throws an ult at your backline. You're going to press this puppy on yourself and your team, give them the tools to turn around that fight, heal up, and then win the fight. And like I said, you get jump boost, and every time you hit, notice there's another instance of damage, and that will happen to everyone that is applied. At the end of the ult, Gambit actually deals damage to everyone around him, and it's not even mentioned on the tooltip. So don't be afraid to get in the fight a little bit while you're duking it out with your team rushing forward, because again, at the very end, on short form, I'm going to skip right to the tips to make sure you get the most value out of this video. If you want all the breakdown of abilities, go to the long form. The first tip is that his resources are very finite, and there is no way to get them back quicker. As soon as you overcommit abilities, you are going to be out of luck. And since you're a strategist, you need to ensure you have a way to burst heal at all times. I would highly suggest never going below 2 cards, especially when teams are still fighting. If you're in a team fight, you need to have 2 cards, because I'm telling you, the best combination ever is to use your hearts deck and go right into the flush so that you can constantly keep your team up, bouncing heals between them and giving them this additional health percentage. Once they get that buff of healing, it is very difficult for them to be taken out when you have focus on them, because you can heal them so quickly with burst. If you overcommit offensively just a little bit and you don't have a way to keep them all up, you're going to be struggling to try to just barely hold them on. Tip number 2 is the utilization of holding the cards without committing an ability. For example, if I'm weak and I'm in more of a pokey situation, I'm just going to hold my hearts deck for a while I'm healing, because it applies self-healing as long as I'm holding the ability before I actually launch it. When I do launch the ability, my self-healing stops. So utilize that to your advantage. It's a guaranteed anytime you want self-heal. You can also make sure that you hold your spades deck in 1v1 situations to ensure your left clicks in general are doing a ton of damage. Tip number 3 is when you're using your combination of your dash with the Bayou Bash to do the spin, if you aim downwards, you'll actually be completely stationary, allowing you to just pummel anyone you're fighting. So it'll look a little bit like this. But that's only if you want to be offensive with it. Tip number 4 is a standard one where you can actually melee weave with his combinations, and it does make him stronger. But you get the most value out of the melee weave when you are holding your spades card, because this is without holding spades. It is honestly faster to just attack instead of melee weave. As you can see there, at least on 275. But when you are holding the spade deck, it is so much faster in melee weave. The final tip is that your FF, or your explosive tick, in other words, it is your spade deck using flush. So a lot of different terminology just based on what you're looking at. You know how the one that applies anti, it's really good in those front to back duels where you're just kind of having a poke composition. Say you have a Hela on your team. If you are brawling it out, keeping, you know, heals in your front line, and then you see an exposed Hela, don't be afraid to throw that at them so your duelists get more value. I mean, and it makes it so they can't get pocketed as much in your fights, allowing your duelists to have better trade. But like I said, try to make sure you have at least 2 available so that you can launch your hearts decks towards your front line. And again, I really don't think the spade knockup is that valuable unless it's going to get a 6-man knockup. It's going to have a little more value. I just don't think it's as good as the anti in terms of the spade abilities. So the moral of the story for Gambit is actually really good in a multitude of different situations. He has strong burst healing. He has a lot of utility and cleansing. He has a decent ultimate and some really good 1v1 potential. All of that combines allows for Gambit to be great in 2 strategist comps and triple strategist comps. Not only can Gambit be very insane in terms of burst healing values anytime he wants, but he can also absolutely devastate 1v1s. All right, so let's dive into combos for Gambit. And since he's a strategist, I'm going to teach you how to heal with him effectively. And again, it's just going to be your hard sec is obviously the most important for healing because it's really your only option. You're going to want to use flush very consistently. Using that flush and giving that healing boost onto those in the front line is going to be your best way to burst heal the front line. But you can follow that up with two things. First, you're going to use that flush and then use your Bayou Bash combination. And while you're in there, spin and rotate so that you're hitting them with every active spin. So again, that is going to be using your flush combination, dashing in, and spinning. I would really only use that combo if you are confident your front line is going to be able to brawl with you. If you're not sure about them, obviously keep your distance in your space because, you know, he does obviously have range still, and it still can heal pretty well at range. But if you're feeling confident with that team, you can use that initiation to get in there and heal them up even more. And then you'll always have one more as long as you manage your cooldowns properly to escape if need be. So now let's talk about the damage combination. The damage combo is going to ensure that you're holding your spades deck because this will give you that damage boost. I do not always recommend utilizing this full combo unless you are confident that your team is in a good spot or that this pick will be valuable enough for your team that you don't need to fully mainline heal for that moment because it does burn a lot of your resources. I'll turn off cooldowns to show you. When you use the spades deck, you use one like I've talked about. It makes your damage stronger for yourself. Really, really strong. And you can see there your chip damage in general is great. But if you want a heavy burst, what you're going to do is you're going to spade up. You're going to attack, dash, Bayou slam, look down like I said. And then you're going to once again use an ability and one auto attack. Any of the spades abilities will work. I typically, like I said, use the anti-heal, the flush, because I think it's just easy to land. It's got a big AoE and it provides anti-heal in case they are getting healed. So here's what the combo looks like very fast. Again, you can use that combo with Raise to attack a little bit faster as well. But it does use two of your cards, and if you are committing like that, you better ensure you have two left to keep that front line healed up if you are a mainline healer in the team. So that's my guide on how to dominate with Gambit and carry your ranked games, especially early on in these seasons where a lot of people are just going to be selling their games with him. I'm live right now with drops in the new season, so drop over and say what's up, and I'll see you in the next one. Got him. Like, he's just so fun, dude. Like, are you kidding?
Gambit enjoyed that a little too much. There you are. Double KO.
David does crit? No, he doesn't. That was just Emma's diamond form. But he does do damage when you hold your damage card.